how to fix it. I'm live right now. I know you guys can see me, right? Sorry. Sometimes I have to take my camera off to like do stuff, and then when I put it back on, it doesn't line up the same. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Technical difficulties. I'm Allie from bakingamoment.com, and I'm going to be doing a live cooking demo today. This has been like our regular time slot every week, Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So once again, here we are, and thank you for clicking over. If you don't know, I don't even really know exactly, but for Facebook, I was just reading that there's a way that you can subscribe to notifications so that you can know every time I start doing a live. So, Jen, do you know how to do that?
They should get a pop-up when they go into this live, and
Okay.
It should ask you if you want to get notified. As a matter of fact, I just got it. It's under the comment section when you're watching the live video, and it says, it's like a little light bulb icon, and then it says, get notified when Baking a Moment goes live next, and there's a little button that says turn on.
So
and
there
when
you
you
go.
click the button, then it'll just give you a notification, just like when your friends post to your wall and like all that kind of stuff whenever we go live.
So there you go. If you guys have been enjoying the live recipe demos, look for that little notification and click turn on so that you get a heads up every time. I would love to have you come back week after week. That would be the best thing ever. So anyway, sorry for the rough start. We're making vanilla cupcakes today. If you're on Instagram, you just want to click over to bakingamoment.com, and there's a search window at the tippy top of my website. Just enter in Even Simpler Vanilla Cupcakes. I'll explain that in a minute. And if you're on Facebook, watching on Facebook, then there's a link to the recipe at the top of the post. So you should be able to click right over, right from Facebook, and check out the recipe. So this is a recipe. My vanilla cupcakes recipe has kind of been evolving over the years. I started out with one that I just called Simply Perfect Vanilla Cupcakes because that was sort of an ongoing series on my blog. And then I decided I didn't like it all that much, so I made some changes to it, and I created a new recipe post that I called Even Simpler, More Perfect Vanilla Cupcakes. And lately, the last couple times I've made it, I've been like, I think that could even be improved a little bit. So this week I worked on that early in the week a little bit, and I tweaked it, and it's even better now. Like, I really feel like now it is what I always wanted it to be. But I'm not going to torture you guys by making a whole other recipe post for vanilla cupcakes. I just went ahead and made the changes to the recipe card in that post, and I'm just going to show you today like how great it is. So this is how they come out looking. They're very simple. They're just like a fluffy, moist, light vanilla cake. It's a butter-based cake with lots of vanilla in it because I just love that like aromatic flavor from tons of vanilla. And you can frost them any way you want. I am a huge fan of Swiss meringue buttercream. So again, go to the search window at the top of my site and enter in Swiss meringue buttercream for a really comprehensive explanation of how to make it, step-by-step photos, and a recipe card. That's one of my favorites, and it's really versatile. You can flavor it all sorts of different ways. And there's lots of suggestions in that post for how to do that. There's also a chocolate Swiss meringue buttercream recipe that I really, really love. I love vanilla cake with chocolate frosting on it. It's so good. You could do like a regular American style buttercream, which is basically just powdered sugar and butter whipped together. Really simple and easy. There's a 7-minute frosting recipe that's almost like marshmallowy, really fluffy and good. But you can do it however you like. There's lots of different options. This is super versatile. So before I get started on the recipe, is there anybody that I should be saying hi to or shouting out or any questions I can answer?
Oh, we have our buddy Lonnie from Germany joining us.
Hi, all the way from Germany.
She says it's cold and snowing there too.
Can you believe this weather? I am like so over it. I can't believe all the snow we got yesterday. And my kids have been home now for 2.5 days. The sun is shining. It looks beautiful. Like it should be spring. What's going on? I feel your pain.
Yeah. We have Maria from the Philippines.
Hi, Maria. How you doing?
Those are both, those are at least, we've got Leonilde.
Okay.
I may have butchered that name, from Portugal.
Hi.
Joining us on Facebook. They're the only ones that have told me they're here, though I see there's lots more people than just you three.
Well, feel free to chime in, everybody. If you're watching, let me know where you're watching from. And I would also really love to know if you are into baking, like what's your favorite thing to bake, or what's the most recent thing that you've baked, or what are you getting ready to bake? I mean, Easter's almost here and Passover, so I'm sure there's some holiday baking happening out there, right? So let me know what you're up to and we can chat about it because it's my favorite topic, obviously. And thanks you guys for saying hello, and thanks everybody for clicking over. Again, we're making vanilla cupcakes, super moist, super soft and light. This is perfection to me. This is like my favorite vanilla cupcake recipe now. So let's talk about it. First, let's talk about ingredients, okay? These are all pretty simple ingredients that you probably already have in your pantry at home. So we have, well, with the exception of the first ingredient, I don't know, a lot of people give me a hard time about this one. It's cake flour. So if you've never used cake flour before and you're not familiar, it's basically milled a lot finer and lighter, and it's milled from harder wheat, which means it has less gluten in it. So it produces cakes that are really light and fluffy and soft with a fine and delicate crumb. So I am able to find it at my regular supermarket in the flour aisle. There's a lot of different brands out there. Some of the ones that I've used have been Swan's Down, Soft as Silk. I know King Arthur makes a cake flour. I know Bob's Red Mill makes a cake flour. There's lots of different choices out there. If you can't find it, I don't know if I know it's easy to get here in the US, but I don't know, maybe in Europe or in other countries it's not as available. So if you can't find it, you can sub with all-purpose flour, but you just might lose a little bit of that like delicate quality if you do. So I use a combination of cake flour and all-purpose flour, and we also have granulated sugar, we have baking soda, baking powder, kosher salt, unsalted butter that is, well, it should be by now. Yeah, it's softened. So you want to let it come to room temperature. We have an egg. We have some Greek yogurt, which I'll talk about that more as we go along. And we have some whole milk and some vanilla. Now the recipe also calls for vanilla bean paste, which is they take the vanilla beans, they split them, and they scrape out all those yummy seeds that are inside, and they put it in a bottle with vanilla extract, and I think there's like some other preservatives or like, you know, thickeners or something like that in there to make it like pourable, and it is so good. I wish I had some right now, but I'm fresh out. So I'm just gonna be using the vanilla extract, but if you can get your hands on vanilla bean paste, or even like whole fresh vanilla beans, that would totally take these cupcakes to the next level. So if you really want to wow, you know, your guests or your family or friends, do that. It's so good. It's so good. I should have mentioned too that voice, that like disembodied voice that you heard a little while ago, that's Jennifer, my assistant. So she's behind the scenes reading all your comments and keeping track of everything, and just kind of shouting out to me as we go along. So everybody say hi to Jen.
They do.
So those are the ingredients. Pretty simple, right? And then for equipment, I have my stand mixer, I have my cupcake pan, cupcake papers or liners, some silicone spatulas, and I like to use this little ice cream scoop. And if you click over to the recipe post, which again, bakingamoment.com, even simpler, more perfect vanilla cupcakes, there are links within that post to some of the specialty ingredients and tools that I'm going to be using as we go along. So if there's anything you need, definitely check that out. I've got it all sourced out for you. So I'm just gonna quickly preheat my oven. We're gonna start with a 350 degree oven. When I do cupcakes, I usually do them at 350 because I like the way that temperature makes the cupcakes dome at the top. But when I do cakes, I lower the temperature to 325, and that way the cakes come out a little more flat. So there's a tip for you that works really well. That way you don't have to trim quite so much off the top of your layer cakes, and there's less waste. So let's get started. This is the cake flour, which I already talked to you about cake flour. So that's going to go in the bowl along with the all-purpose flour and the sugar and the leavening, which we're using baking powder, baking soda, and kosher salt. So this is a 1 bowl recipe, which was so important to me because I am a busy mom and I don't have time for any more dishes than I already have to wash as it is. And believe me, it is a ton. Like sometimes I think I spend just as much time washing dishes as I do like developing recipes or taking photos or answering comments. I mean, like it is almost a full-time job in and of itself. So this you'll just have 1 bowl to wash when you're done, which is so key. So all the dry ingredients are in the bowl, and now I'm just gonna add the soft butter. And please use unsalted butter because that way you can control the amount of salt in your recipes. So I'm gonna turn this on low speed, and we're just gonna mix it until it starts to resemble like coarse meal or like damp sand is another good way to describe it. All the butter particles are just gonna get like cut into the dry ingredients and be surrounded by dry ingredients. This is called a reverse creaming method, and I really like it just because it's simple and easy and you don't have to dirty a million dishes. So if you're not familiar with this method, I think it was made popular by Rose Levy Berenbaum, who is a very prolific cookbook author, and she was a huge inspiration to me when I was starting out as a pastry chef all those years ago. When I discovered her reverse creaming method, I kind of never went back. I was like, this is the way to make cakes for me. Unless it's a pound cake, that's the only time that I do it the regular creaming way. I really love the reverse creaming method. So while this comes along, let me check in with Jen and see if there's anybody I should be talking to right now.
Oh my gosh, we have lots of people. So we have Mariella from Ecuador.
Hi, Mariella.
We've got, let's see, that was really the other person that had the location where they were coming from. And we had a lot of people talking about their favorite things to hate.
Oh, let's hear it.
We have Scott loves brownies.
Who doesn't love brownies? Scott, I'm so with you.
Jacques, who just made is making carrot cake, which is apropos for today, since that's
Yes,
today's post.
I just made carrot cake.
But for Easter, Robin says she's working on quite a few things for county fair season coming up.
Nice.
And we have the Red Eye Baker, who just made a chocolate-covered strawberry cake for her niece's confirmation, which sounds like something right on my alley.
Oh my goodness, your niece sounds like a lucky girl. I think I'm jealous of your niece. That sounds amazing. Yeah, this is definitely carrot cake season though, right? I was working on carrot cake. I think I mentioned it last week in our last live that I was going to be doing it. So I started it over the weekend. My first try didn't really come out. So I hate when that happens. So I had to make it a second time. The second time it came out great. So I'm really happy with how that worked out. We had it for dessert last night, and I said to my husband, I'm like, you know, I don't really think there could be a better carrot cake than this. Like, I think I really nailed it. And he liked it too, and he's a huge carrot cake fan. So if you're looking for a really great recipe for homemade carrot cake, check out bakingamoment.com. It's the first recipe at the tippy top. It's just titled Carrot Cake with Cream Cheese Frosting. I just went like straight classic traditional, because I mean you can't really improve on it, right? But check that out. I was really happy with the way that it came out. It was very moist, still light, not too dense or heavy, not greasy, And again, this was like a butter-based version, which you don't see a whole lot. I feel like most of the time carrot cakes are oil-based, but I really like the extra richness and flavor that you get from a butter-based cake. So I was very happy with it. Hopefully you guys will like it too. But here we are with our dry ingredients and butter mixed together until they look like damp sand. So that's what that should look like, and it only takes like a minute or so before it's ready. So now that that's good, I'm gonna add in the egg. Now this was one of the changes that I made to the original recipe. It used to have more than, I should mention, I'm doing a half batch here. So the quantities are gonna look different to you than what you see on the website. Again, vanilla cupcakes, Simply Perfect, I'm sorry, even simpler, more perfect vanilla cupcakes. Yeah, there used to be more eggs in it, and the last few times I made it, I was just like, you know, the texture is just not as soft and light as I would like it to be. So I had some ideas, and I just got in the kitchen and started playing around. I thought maybe less egg, maybe a little bit less leavening, let's see what happens. And when I tried it, I really like the result. So this is way better to me than what we had before. It's very like soft and spongy and moist, and I'm real happy with it. So the egg just went in, and I just mixed it on low speed until it was incorporated. So that's what you see here. And I have on my mixer, I have a special beater attachment that has a silicone edge. So it scrapes the bowl as it mixes, and I love this thing. I think that everyone should have it. It makes it so much easier, but even with that, I still like to just make sure that there aren't any unmixed ingredients hanging out in the bottom of the bowl. So this is like a good time to go in and just double check, give it a scrape, make sure everything's getting mixed the way it should be getting mixed. But this looks pretty good to me. This looks pretty good. So now that the egg is in and everything's incorporated, we can add in the Greek yogurt. Now, this is another ingredient that I feel like not everybody has access to. So if you can't find it, then you can substitute with buttermilk or sour cream or plain yogurt, or if you can't get any of those things, then you can add some lemon juice or white vinegar to your milk, and that'll just kind of sour the milk a little bit, make it a little thicker, and it'll give you that acidity that you need in order to activate the baking soda, and that works as a good substitution. But I really love to use Greek yogurt because it's so thick, and it makes it so that your final cupcake batter is thick and like almost mousse-like, and it doesn't drip everywhere, because again, I'm a busy mom and I'm a lazy person, and I don't want to have to wipe up a million drips off of my counter or a million drips off of my cupcake pan. Like if I'm using cupcake papers, then ideally you shouldn't even have to wash your cupcake pan when you're done, right? You just pop the cupcakes out and you've got a clean pan. But if you're using a drippy batter, then you've just, you know, created a big mess for yourself. So that's why I really like the Greek yogurt. And I'm adding in some milk too, and that's just going to help the cake to be extra moist, and some vanilla. And again, if you have a whole vanilla bean or vanilla bean paste or something like that, this would be the time to add it, and that will really take your recipe to the next level. So I'm just going to mix that up. You don't want to over mix it. The more you mix, it develops glutens in the cupcake batter, and it will cause your cakes to be tough. So we're just going to mix it until it looks like it's fully incorporated. And while that's going, I'll check in with Jen again. Is there anybody I should be talking to, Jen?
Our buddy, Southern Fatty, I forget who he is.
Hi, Philip.
Philip. So Philip says, he says a laughing emoji, and it says, baking a lazy moment.
Hey, what can I say? No shame. Like, baking is a lot of work. Like, why would you not want to make it as little work as you can, right? I'm sure you're the same way, right, Philip?
Probably.
I can't imagine you're wanting to work with any drippy batters or wash any extra dishes. Thanks for clicking over, Philip. I miss you. We got to get together. Philip was all the way in Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
So I don't get to see him too much, but I saw him a couple of weeks ago. I was at a conference in California, and before that I saw him in, I think it was like November. I want to say it was like earlier mid-November. We had a great time hanging out. If you guys don't know Southern Fatty, definitely check out his Instagram. He's got a really funny Instagram feed, and his photos are gorgeous. They're just like magnificent. You'll be drooling. So this is just about ready. I just noticed that there's like some buttery, floury batter stuck to the beater a little bit. So I want to make sure that all gets incorporated in really well. And I'll just give it one more quick stir. And that's pretty much it.
Just a quick question from Everfresh Joy.
Okay.
If you use buttermilk or anything Greek yogurt substitute, are you still using milk?
Yeah, I would. I would just replace the Greek yogurt. I like the combination of milk and Greek yogurt because the milk makes it extra moist, and the Greek yogurt just sort of, it's there to activate the leavening and to make the batter, again, not too drippy and messy. So I do like the combination of both. I think my first vanilla cupcake recipe had just Greek yogurt, and that was one of the changes that I made way back in like 2015, I think. I decided a combination of milk and Greek yogurt was more to my liking. So that's that. I hope I answered your question. Oops. Sorry, guys. So here's my cupcake pan, and I've been asked about cupcake pans before. Hey guys, my kids are home from school today because of the snow. So I've had people ask me about cupcake pan. What cupcake pan do you recommend? And honestly, I like the cheap ones the best. They're my favorite. I don't know if it's just because it's what I grew up with or what, but these like really thin kind of ghetto cupcake pans from the supermarket, those are my favorite. And if you're looking for cupcake liners, most of the time I order online. I order from a place called bakeitpretty.com, and they have like every color of the rainbow and every pattern you could ever imagine. Or if you just like plain, I like to get the grease-proof papers. I have them, I try to keep on hand at all times. I try to have white and dark brown because I feel like those will go with anything. And I also like the natural parchment ones, which I think is what I have in the photos for this recipe post. So I'm just gonna push some stuff out of the way so we have a little bit more room to groove here. And again, we're making vanilla cupcakes. If you want the recipe, just go on bakingthemoment.com, and at the tippy top, there's a search window. You can just enter even simpler vanilla cupcakes, and that should bring you straight to the recipe. So, and if you're on Facebook, there's a direct link right at the top of this post, so you can check it out for yourself. So I like to use this little scoop to divide my batter. It sort of acts as both, you know, a spoon and a measuring device at once. This is a 1.5 tablespoon scoop, and I think I have a link within the post where you can find one just like it. So I'm just putting 1 scoop in for each one of these, and then I'm going to go back and judge how much batter I have left over and try to evenly disperse whatever's left. You don't need to fill these cupcake wells very, very deep. They probably get less than half full. It really puffs up a lot in the oven, and I don't like when they go over the sides. That's one of my pet peeves. I feel like it's okay for a muffin to go over the sides, but I want a cupcake to be like right at the top and not go over. So if you can't tell, Jen's over there laughing at me. I'm a bit of a control freak, especially when it comes to stuff like this. I have definite opinions. So anybody else out there have a question for me, Jen?
We have lots of shout outs, not a ton of questions. There was one from a while back when you were talking about the different brands for the flowers, I think. Sharon said she loves Swan's Down. She wanted to know what your favorite was, and she wanted to also say she loves vanilla bean paste.
Oh, it's so good, right? It's such a genius ingredient. I don't know why it took them so long to start putting it out there. I use mostly what I find at my supermarket is either Swan's Down or Softest Silk, and I think they're both really great. I've never used some of those other brands that I mentioned, although I'm not opposed. I would be happy to try them if anybody wants to send them to me. I think they're all pretty comparable, so I don't think you could go wrong with any of those. Last week, I keep getting batter on myself. Last week, we had a lot of general baking questions, which was a total surprise. I wasn't expecting it at all. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. I loved sharing some of my knowledge from over the years. And I had picked out a super simple recipe to demo. So it worked out really well because the recipe took about 5 minutes. And then we had all these great questions that kind of filled the rest of the time. So if you guys have any general baking questions for me, don't be shy. Just throw them on out there and I'll do my best to answer. I've got an insane amount of experience with baking. I'm almost ashamed to admit how long I've been baking. So there we go. So we got all the batter into the cups, and I'm going to pop them in the oven, and these are going to bake for about 18 minutes. Let me do that, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about how to know when they're done. Let me set the timer here. There we go. Now let me just grab a dishcloth here so I can wipe my hand. So, obviously, almost all recipes are going to tell you how long that something should cook or bake, but really think of it as a guideline only. Don't take it as gospel because there are a lot of different factors that could impact how long something needs to bake, what your oven is like, how old your oven is, how evenly does it heat, is it exactly the temperature that it says it is, or is it a little bit off, which isn't that uncommon, what altitude you're at. So there's a lot of different factors that can change how long something needs to bake. And what I always tell people to do, I'll give the time, this is how long it took in my oven, but don't take it out until you've tested it. And there's 2 things that I'll do. Actually, I guess 3 things that I'll do. First, just give it a look, and if it looks wet, then it's probably not done. And then you can give it a touch, and if it feels like when you touch it, it goes down, but it doesn't pop right back up, it's not springy, then it's probably not done. And third, stick a toothpick or a bamboo skewer in the thickest part of the cake, and if it comes out clean or with a few moist crumbs, then you're good to go. If it comes out with batter on it, then it's not done yet. And you want to make sure with cakes especially that they're definitely done before you take them out, because if they're under, they might look nice and fluffy, but as they cool, they're going to sink. And that was a question that we had last week. Why does my cake always sink? So that's one of the reasons why maybe it sinks. Ooh, big wind.
Yeah, big wind for sure. I do have 2 different questions for you from a couple Instagram users.
Okay.
One is from Deb99, and she wants to know if you have any advice for baking muffins in a Texas muffin tin.
I'm assuming a Texas muffin tin is a extra large, a jumbo muffin tin. The only tip that I could think of is just if you're baking it oversized, then the bake time is probably going to need to be adjusted, and obviously you're not going to get as many muffins out of a batch as maybe what the recipe calls for. So I would just refer back to what I was just saying about how to know when something's done. It should look kind of dry on the surface, not dried out dry, but not glistening wet anymore. It should be springy when you touch it, and when you stick that toothpick in, it should come out dry. So that's how you'll know when it's done. Did I answer your question, Deb, or did I totally miss the boat there?
No, she did say yes, it's an extra large muffin tin. So
okay.
it would just be a larger muffin.
Okay, so I would imagine that the only difference would probably be in the yield and in the bake time. So if you can just keep an eye on that, you should probably be good. And then was there another question after that?
Gloria from Instagram wants to know what type of oven you use.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a really nice oven. I'm very proud of my oven. I used to partner with KitchenAid. I was a contributor to the KitchenAid blog for 4 years. So they provided me with a super nice oven, and this thing is a workhorse. I love it. It's great. It's gas. It's a gas oven, gas range, 5 burner. The oven, there's a main oven, and then the bottom drawer is a secondary oven, which is great because, you know, like Thanksgiving and stuff, you have so much stuff that needs going to the oven at once. I basically have 2 ovens here. I love that. And it's got the convection option, but as much as I love convection baking, I don't really use it much because I know that most of my readers probably don't have that. So I want to make sure that the recipes are, you know, you don't have to have a specialty oven in order to make them. So it has that, and it has a steam option too, and like all the other settings that most ovens have, like broil and things like that. So yeah, very happy with my KitchenAid oven. Thanks for asking. All right, so I'm gonna let the cupcakes continue to bake. They've got about 13 minutes left. Maybe we should break into one of these already made ones just so that I can show you what the texture is like and the flavor and stuff. So I can feel just how soft this is right through the paper. And should I break it or should I bite it? Let's break it. I'm trying to be good and not eat a ton of cake this week. So as you can see, it's nice and soft, and it's very moist. You can smell the butter, you can smell the vanilla. It's really prominent, which, I mean, it should be, right? It's a vanilla cupcake. Yeah, it smells really nice. I'm just gonna take a tiny bite. That's delicious. The crumb is really nice and fine. You can tell it's homemade, you know. The box cakes, they tend to have kind of a coarse crumb, but when you make it homemade and you use this reverse creaming method and you use your cake flour and all those kinds of ingredients, it really makes a huge difference. I'll never forget the first time I made one of Rose Lavy Berenbaum's cakes from her book, The Cake Bible. It blew me away. I had never had cake that tasted like that or with that kind of a texture. And like I said, I've been baking that way ever since. She was a huge inspiration to me. So this definitely has that same kind of quality. Really delicate, buttery, soft, delicate, and moist. I think you guys are really gonna love it. Definitely give this recipe a try. Even simpler, more perfect, vanilla cupcakes, new and improved. Click over to bakingamoment.com and look for the recipe. Are we good?
Yeah, we have Everfresh Joy that wants to know what made you get into baking and pastry.
Oh, okay. Well, I love answering that question. So I've had like a lot of different jobs throughout my life, and I started out working in food service like a lot of teenagers do. I just kind of fell into it. I worked at an ice cream shop that had like cookies and brownies and stuff like that too. And I really liked it. I think I was like 15 when I started that job. And I really enjoyed being around food, and they taught me how to decorate cakes and, you know, make pipe roses and shell borders and things like that. And so from there, you know, I had the experience. I went on and I worked in a bakery for a number of years. And then I got a job as a pastry chef at a catering company. And I did all their wedding cakes and cookies and, you know, their whole dessert table. Lots of cannolis and cream puffs and things like that. And by that time I was in college and I was studying architecture. I went to Drexel University. I was part of their Bachelor of Architecture program. And it was time for me to get my real job. So, so I went to work as an architect, and I worked at an architectural firm for almost 10 years. And then it was time for me to start my family. So I had my 2 boys who are standing right over here. Do you want to come over and say hi? Too shy. Come on. This is my younger guy. So I have my 2 boys, and the timing, it just worked out that it was right as the mortgage crisis was hitting. So I was on my maternity leave, and I was ready to come back to work, and I called up my boss, and I was like, I'm ready to come back, and he was like, oh, Allie, things are not good right now. Okay. I can barely keep up with the payroll for the people who are already working here. I can't bring you back right now. Like, I'm lucky if I don't have to lay somebody off. So all that time that I've been working as an architect, I never stopped baking. I never stopped loving baking. I was still as into it as ever. And I was like, well, I can't work as an architect right now, so what else can I do? I can turn back to baking. I can turn back to my roots and my history and get back into that. And my sister was a web designer, so she was like, you need to start a blog. And at the time I was like, I don't even know what a blog was. But she's like, let me set this up. We'll get this going. We'll get it off the ground. And no sooner did I post my very first recipe that I was totally bitten by the bug. I was totally in, and I was like, this is so much fun. Like, this is what I really, really want to do, and I really want to make a success out of it. So I've been working on that ever since. So there's the long answer to your short question. But I really do love baking. I never lost my love for it, even when I was in design school, even when I was working as an architect. It was always something that I would go back to. It's almost like therapy for me. I love to get into the kitchen. I love to just putter around and create. And I also really love to give these things to the people that I love. There's nothing that makes me happier than like handing somebody a plate of something and watching them take that first bite and get that smile on their face or that wow kind of look, like, this is amazing, I love it. So that really just, that makes me feel so good to be able to do that. I'm sure you guys probably feel the same way, otherwise you wouldn't be watching right now, right? You know what I'm talking about. So yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the icing that you used on top of the finished cupcakes?
Okay, sure. So this is not Swiss meringue buttercream or any of those other frostings that I mentioned at the beginning. This is actually, I would call this like a whipped cream cheese, whipped cream maybe. So basically all you do is you get a little bit of cream cheese. It's not a whole lot, so it doesn't really taste all that cream cheesy. Just a little bit of cream cheese, and you whip it with some powdered sugar, and then once that's nice and smooth, you get your cold, heavy cream. Sometimes it's called whipping cream. And you slowly drizzle it into the bowl while whipping. And after a few minutes, well, actually I should say, once it all goes in, you're doing that on like a medium speed. Once it's all in, you turn the speed up to high and you whip it until it holds stiff peaks. It takes like less than a minute usually. So it's basically like a whipped cream that's sort of fortified a little bit with cream cheese, and the powdered sugar has a little bit of cornstarch in it, so that kind of helps to stabilize. It helps to stabilize the whipped cream. So it's more stable than a normal whipped cream. But when I went to pipe it on today, I mean, it's been in my fridge for more than a couple of days. It was left over from another recipe that I had made. So it was starting to lose its stiffness a little bit. It was a little slumpier than I would have liked, but it still tastes really good, and I really love it. It's delicious, and it's a great solution for when you want to top something with whipped cream, but you're worried about it weeping or, you know, slumping or whatever. This will keep a little bit longer than a standard whipped cream does. So thanks for the great question.
But what's your favorite icing?
Wow.
I think I know the answer to that. But for everyone watching.
My favorite is Swiss meringue buttercream. It's made by heating egg whites and sugar over a double boiler until the sugar dissolves. Whip it up, and then you add in softened butter, a tablespoon at a time, and it makes the most silky smooth, light, perfectly sweet frosting that you've ever tasted. I am absolutely in love with it. This was another one that I learned from that same cookbook. And once I tried it, I was like, there's no going back. It's a little bit more involved than just whipping powdered sugar and butter together, because you have that extra step of heating and dissolving the sugar. But the result makes it so worthwhile. I've given it to people before, had them taste it, and be like, what is that? Like, why is that so good? You know, it's like a revelation when you taste it. And I've got a ton of recipes on bakingamoment.com that use Swiss meringue buttercream. In fact, I think it was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, I posted like a comprehensive article, I would call it like an article because it was so long, on Swiss meringue buttercream. It's got like multiple subject headings within, and step-by-step photos and the whole thing. And as I was writing it, I was like, oh, I should link to all the other Swiss meringue buttercream recipes that are on my website, so people can see like how versatile it is. Like, you can make a peanut butter version, you can make a strawberry version, you can make a chocolate version. So I was going through looking for every recipe that I've ever written that incorporates Swiss meringue buttercream, and I had 25 of them, which even kind of blew me away. I was like, wow, I know I use it a lot, but that is really a lot. So, yeah, so I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Swiss meringue buttercream. Do you guys have a favorite? Do you guys have a favorite kind of frosting that you really love?
Someone wants to know what you think about French buttercream.
French buttercream, I believe, is the same thing, only you don't heat the whites. Is that right? Do I have the right idea? Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's egg whites and sugar and butter, but you don't heat the egg whites, right? So I haven't actually made that one. I've made the Italian meringue buttercream, but the French I haven't really made, mostly just because, I mean, I'm not scared of raw eggs, but I will try to avoid them if I can. And the other thing is, like, I don't know how well, I guess I just kind of don't trust how well the sugar is able to dissolve without that heat. So you got me there. I haven't really tried that one, but I have tried the Italian meringue buttercream, which is similar. It's basically, you have your egg whites in your mixing bowl, and you heat your sugar on the stove until it melts and becomes a super hot syrup. And then you pour your hot syrup into your egg whites while whipping, and then you add your butter to that, right? So that's Italian meringue buttercream, and that is every bit as delicious as Swiss meringue buttercream. But the reason why I don't make it as often is because I am afraid of hot sugar. It scares me. And I mean, I make caramel a lot, and that's okay, but like pouring the sugar into the bowl while the whip is spinning just makes me a little bit nervous. I know that like if you get hot sugar on yourself, it burns obviously, but one of the worst things about it is it also sticks. So you have this like hot napalm on you and you can't even get it off, it's stuck. So I try to avoid hot sugar whenever possible, and that's why I like Swiss better.
There's several people that want to know the name of the cookbook that you referenced.
Oh, okay. It's called The Cake Bible, and it's got to be pretty old by now because I think it came across my radar back in like the early 90s. So yeah, it's been around for a long time. It's called The Cake Bible, and the author is Rose Levy Berenbaum, Berenbaum, and she's an icon. I mean, she's written a ton of cookbooks since then. She definitely knows her stuff when it comes to baking, so definitely look her up.
I have there just keep coming in.
Oh, nothing wrong with that.
Phil wants to know why baking powder and baking soda in this recipe.
Good question. Well, baking soda needs acid in order to have its reaction, right? Which we do have acid in here. That's why I like the Greek yogurt. But baking powder is almost like a little extra added insurance. It doesn't need the acid. It's activated by moisture. I'll be right with you, babe. It's activated by moisture and heat. So just in case the baking soda doesn't quite do it for us, we have that baking powder in there as an insurance policy. You know that if the baking soda poops out, that the baking powder will take over and, you know, finish the job for us. So I got a question over here. This guy wants to know something.
If you're scared of sugar, then you're afraid of this.
He loves Kit Kats. That's his favorite candy. And he just had a birthday. So he got 2 bags of Kit Kats. One from me and my husband, and one from my mom, his Grammy. And so it's been really hard to keep him away from the Kit Kats for last week. So I just heard my timer going off. I wasn't expecting to still be on when these cupcakes were done, but pleasant surprise.
There's still a few more questions.
All right.
That's good.
Oh, these are done, see? No crumbs, no batter. These are done and ready to go. I'm gonna pull them. Go ahead and hit me with those questions.
Okay, the first one, I'm probably going to completely butcher this term because I am not a pastry chef. But they want to know, how do we get a light and puffy pâte genoise? Genoise?
Are you talking about like a Genoese cake, like a sponge cake?
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
It just says light and puffy, so we'll see. Hopefully the answer.
If that's what you mean, okay, I got some tips for that. First, I just want to show you guys. Look at the dome. Isn't that perfect?
Mm-hmm.
I love just how nice and rounded it is.
Yes, that is what they were talking about.
Okay, good. That's the right idea there. Okay, this is hot, but I just want to show you how springy it is. When you pat it, it's bouncy. That's what you want. And they're just a little bit golden. You don't want to get them too dark or they'll get dry. So, oh, sorry. So anyway, Genoese cake. So a Genoese is basically like a sponge cake that has fat added to it, butter, melted butter. So let me think, it's been a while since I made one. I gotta try to remember the order that it all goes in. I think you start by whipping the egg whites, right? Okay, so I've talked about this before, but if you have any grease or fat or just any residual anything in your mixing bowl, you're gonna have trouble getting your egg whites to whip up as stiff and as light as, you know, as is called for in the recipe. So make sure your bowl is super clean. If you have any doubt at all, you can take like a half a lemon and just rub the lemon around all inside the bowl just to like remove any grease that might be left behind. And do the same thing with your whip. So, so that's step number 1, and then I think the second step is then to whip your yolks and your sugar together. And you want to whip them for a long time. You want them to be doubled in volume, and you want them to be very pale and fluffy. And there's a couple of tests you can do. I think one of them is called the ribbon test, where like if you lift your mixer, Instagram people can't see me, but if you lift your mixer like that and the mixture drops off of the beater into the bowl, it should make like a ribbon almost. It should almost like sit on the surface before it, you know, melts into the rest of it, if that makes any sense at all. So yeah, that's one way that you know that you've whipped them enough. And another way is like if you dip in a spoon, like a wooden spoon or whatever, and you run your finger over the back of the spoon, it should stay, like, so it should make like a trail, and the 2 sides should stay and not like bleed into each other and recover the spoon again. So in other words, it's really thick and it's really foamy and light. So that'll help get a light Genoese too. And then when you go to fold in your melted butter, just fold it in really, really carefully, really gently. You want to make sure, you want to do like as few folds as you can, because you don't want to knock all that air out. I actually skipped a step there. You're going to fold your whites into your yolks first, and then you're going to put in your butter and your flour. You're going to alternate butter and flour, right? And when you're folding, you just want to go super, super gentle. Like just whisper light, and just as soon as it's like, as soon as you're not seeing any more streaks of flour or butter, then get it right into the pan and get it right into the oven. Don't waste any time, because that air is like a precious thing in there. It took a lot of time to get it in there, and you don't want to let it go anywhere. Did I answer the question? How to make it light, and what was the other?
Light and fluffy.
Light and fluffy. Okay. So yeah, I think I did an okay job there. Let me know if I left anything out. Any other questions?
The last question that I had was, some people wanted to know recipes of your own, complete your own creation.
Just in general, like what I really
I
like.
just wanted to know, actually their question was, have you created your own recipe, which obviously I know the answer to.
Yeah. I've created most of the recipes on my site. If I didn't create them, then it's noted where it came from. So, it's funny you should ask that, because I don't think my husband even realized that that's what I was doing up until like yesterday. Because I was making that carrot cake that went live today, and I was telling him how the first try didn't come out like I wanted, and he was kind of like, well, weren't you following a recipe? And I was like, no. And he was like, you're just making these things up? And I was like, kinda. Yeah, kinda just making them up. And so they don't always work on the first try. Sometimes they need like multiple tests. But the way I've gone about it is, like, a lot of times when I was new to all of this, I would use a cookbook, or I would use like an old family recipe or something like that, but I would kind of go in and make a lot of changes. Like I would say, oh, this chocolate frosting isn't chocolatey enough for me, so I'm gonna add cocoa, and I'm gonna add melted chocolate, and I'm gonna add chocolate extract, or like whatever. Like I would just go in and like tweak them a lot, just by trial and error. But then over time, like I started to have like a pretty decent amount of recipes on my website, so I would go back to my own recipe and tweak that. So like, for example, I wanted to make a strawberry cupcake recipe, so I started with my favorite vanilla cupcake recipe and added freeze-dried strawberries to it, and I made a Swiss meringue buttercream that had like all kinds of strawberry stuff added to it. So like that was kind of how that would work. And the more you have, then the more you have that to inspire new recipes too. So, but it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of like, I think this would work I think this brown sugar pound cake would work as a carrot cake. Let me try adding carrots and nuts and spices and pineapple and see how it comes out. Well, it fell flat, so I needed to tweak it some more. So yeah, it's kind of a long process, but it's a lot of fun. I like being in the kitchen, so it's all good.
All right.
So is that it?
Yeah, we're getting close to our Instagram next too. So I just want to
Okay.
be mindful of that and make sure you get to sign off.
Yeah, Instagram doesn't let me stay on for more than an hour, so we always try to like keep it to under an hour because we don't want to get cut off. Like that happened one time, and we were just like, oh, oops. Bye, Instagram people. Sorry we didn't get to say goodbye. So yeah, but I'm gonna sign off. But before I do, I just want to say definitely head over to bakingamoment.com and enter in the search window even simpler, more perfect vanilla cupcakes, because this recipe is definitely a winner. It's just look at how soft and light, and they're super moist. Anyway. So definitely give that recipe a try, and thank you so much, you guys, for all the great questions. Thanks for clicking over to watch. Jen and I really love doing these, so it really just means so much that you're coming over and saying hi and asking all kinds of great questions. Thank you, and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.